Welcome to this webinar entitled Modernizing Project Online with Power Framework PPM. I'm going to take an hour or so to take you through a lot of content that hopefully will show you the way to a future of Project Online modernized to the latest technologies in the Microsoft platform. So before we do that, quick introductions. My name is Gero Renker. I'm a co-founder of Program Framework. My company has been around for 20 years now. It's our anniversary in May, and we've always been implementing solutions for project and portfolio management in the Microsoft Cloud. The solutions we have in the market now are branded Power Framework PPM, and Risk. It's the PPM tool that we're going to be talking about today. But my company was set up 20 years ago to implement Microsoft Project Server, which became Microsoft Project Online. So we've done hundreds of implementations of those solutions over the years. And we have very much designed Power Framework PPM to provide a viable upgrade path to organizations that are using those Microsoft legacy solutions. Quick view of the agenda today. So we're going to be talking about Project Online and its current status. Where are we at with Project Online? How long is it going to be available to us? It is a legacy solution. What does Microsoft say? And what does Microsoft offer to replace Project Online? Now, of course, we are saying today that Power Framework PPM is a viable replacement, and that will be really the biggest chunk of the presentation to do today, where I'm going to take you through the application and reference specifically the experience in Project Online and how that now translates into Power Framework being, really the sort of result of modern Microsoft technologies applied to the challenges of project portfolio management. And then I'm going to close by summarizing what the key reasons are for you to make the move. And with that, let's make a start and talk a little bit about Project Online. Now, we've had quite an amazing response to this webinar. Many people interested in this topic. There's clearly a lot of Project Online users still out there. And Project Online, if we just sort of recall some of its key experiences, offers a view of projects in the organization that can be maintained via what's called project detail pages, configurable forms that capture data about our projects. We have project sites connected to all of our projects, and project sites is again where a lot of configuration and extension happens. So we have risk issues documents that can all be configured. Some people have additional content deployed into project sites. And then, of course, the key building block to everything going on in Project Online is project schedules defined with Microsoft Project. And here we have an image of the project web app, the web view of a project schedule. But of course, the desktop Microsoft Project desktop app very much connects to Project Online and allows us to maintain project plans. We have a shared resource pool, which allows us to share resources across these project plans. So enterprise resource management is facilitated by this application. And some years into the existence of Project Online, Microsoft released a content pack for Power BI. And so Power BI very much able to pull information out from the Project Online database. Now, this application has been in the market since 2013. It is a child, if you like, of Microsoft Project Server, the on-premise solution that looks very much like this. And Project Server goes back to 2003. In fact, my company was set up with the very objective of implementing Project Server solutions for customers. That was the rise of enterprise project portfolio management 20 years ago. And Microsoft Project as a desktop tool, of course, goes all the way back to the 80s. And the question is, what is wrong with this solution? It's been very much the workhorse, if you like, for many, many years of us installing PPM tools for our customers. But it's showing its age in many ways. And you may have feedback from users in your organization that says, hey, this navigation isn't very efficient. I'll have to do a lot of clicks in order to navigate, not least because of content stored in connected SharePoint sites. And I have to click around to get to those SharePoint sites. I have to check out projects and check them back in. The tool isn't actually that easy to extend and configure when you compare it to modern Microsoft technologies. And a lot of configuration happens in SharePoint sites. But when I have 100 SharePoint sites for 100 projects, if I want to configure my risk log and add a column, well, that doesn't translate back into all of the existing risk logs. And I have potentially a challenge of pulling custom data into reporting and so on. And then a lot of issues really with the fact that a lot of functionality in Project Online is actually enabled through the Microsoft Project client itself. And there's a lot of tool knowledge required to use Microsoft Project on the desktop. And a lot of people are quite scared of using it. And clearly, Microsoft Project isn't necessarily the right tool for all types of projects. It's somewhat heavy for teams that just don't want to do lightweight task management and don't really care about dynamic scheduling and resource leveling or whatever else. And so particularly this is true for cost and resource planning. It's all about using Microsoft Project to operate those high-end workloads in the PPM world. And a lot of people fail to make that work consistently across the user community and end up using spreadsheets again. So Microsoft realized this quite a long time ago, something like 10 years ago, and decided that this tool needed innovating because actually there's many, many complex features that are rarely used in the real world, and the user experience is outdated, and there is competitive pressure in the market with easy to use collaborative work management tools that very much enable what one might call the casual project manager. So they needed to capture that mass market. And equally, one of the failings nowadays of Project Online is the fact that it doesn't really integrate very well with the wider work management platform that we have in the Microsoft Cloud. So connecting people, collaborating, and so on isn't a strength of this tool set when you compare it to modern Microsoft technologies. And when the question was asked, how and where do Microsoft innovate Project Online? It was actually decided that it was not worth building on top of Project Online or to enhance, modify, develop Project Online itself to modernize it. And why? Because the underlying platform is SharePoint, which isn't the strategic platform for enterprise. Equally, Project Online, going back so many years, all the way back to the early days of Project Server, has a lot of technical debt, a lot of legacy features that you need to keep alive and maintain if you modernize the tool overall. So Microsoft made the decision that they were going to start again, and Project Online was essentially retired in terms of it became a legacy application. It is not being maintained anymore. It's not developed anymore. It's static. And what Microsoft did instead is launched Project for the web. And this happened in October 2019. And Project Online since then hasn't really been developed in its functionality. Project for the web is now the replacement scheduling tool, if you like, for Microsoft Project on the desktop. I don't know if a lot of you have managed to play with Project for the Web. It really is a nice online experience, highly collaborative. It's actually quite affordable in that, for example, it allows everyone in the business who's got a Microsoft 365 license to view and update tasks. It's relatively easy to use, particularly compared to Microsoft Project Desktop. And it's really been enhanced over the years since it's been in the market. More and more features, particularly scheduling features, have been added to the tool, and it keeps on growing. Microsoft keeps investing in this. It is also highly collaborative. You know, it can be embedded into teams. People can see their tasks. You can have chats against individual tasks and so on. And so that's a really great benefit. And ultimately, it is highly extensible, and more about that in a minute. So Project for the Web was recently renamed to Microsoft Planner. So that brand, Project for the Web, is dead. And about a year ago, it was subsumed into the Microsoft Planner branding. Planner obviously has existed as a brand for many years as a simple task management tool, task board, and now everything is united under that brand. Project for the Web now became Microsoft Planner with premium features. Now, Project Online still around, still active, still alive, and Microsoft Project on the desktop is, of course, very much still available. And it's worth pointing out, though, that Microsoft Project Desktop does not play an active role in the new world of Project for the Web or Planner Premium. You can import files from Microsoft Project, but that's it. It's a one-off import, and after that, Microsoft Project has no role to play in maintaining project schedules that now live in Planner Premium. And in simplifying the scheduling tool, it is unavoidable that features have been lost when you compare this back to Microsoft Project. And professional and proficient project managers that enjoy using Microsoft Project and for certain types of projects really need the planning and scheduling capabilities in Microsoft Project will say, you know, Project for the Web or Planner Premium isn't doing enough for me. And they may have a valid point. Now, Microsoft has never promised feature parity. That is not their intention. That's not the goal. You know, they want to capture the wider mass market, but for the time being, Microsoft Project is still around, and Project Online still has a role to play in storing Microsoft Project schedules in the cloud. But what Microsoft have done is they've given us an extension to Project for the Web or Planner Premium through a Project Accelerator solution. And this is where we are starting to talk about the extensibility that is possible in the platform. And we're going to talk a little more about the technologies that make that possible. So it is, when we talk about, you know, what is Microsoft offering to give you a replacement for Project Online? Well, here's a very simple app, a Power app that you can download from GitHub, and we will send you the link in the follow-up email to this event. And that's a free application that does very basic PPM capability wrapped around the schedules maintained in Planner Premium. And it's free, and you can build that out yourself. And that is as far as it goes with Microsoft offering something that one might call a PPM tool, although it's just rather basic. And you know, we need to face reality. Microsoft, to some extent, have stepped back from offering full enterprise level PPM tooling. And you know, at the moment, what's Project Online look like in terms of its status? Project Online is available. It is still operational, but Microsoft have published this statement that says, you know, there's no date limit to the functionality of Project Online being available. but we encourage customers to plan their transition as soon as possible. And meanwhile, some of the SharePoint infrastructure that sits under Project Online is quite ancient, is being deprecated. So, some of the workflow technology is being deprecated. And so, SharePoint Project Online is clearly it's operational, but it's not going anywhere. And any organization that is using Project Online is probably well advised to make plans as to how they might move off that platform. So when I say Microsoft is not offering a full-scale replacement or alternative to Project Online, then what I can say though is that they are at least giving us an amazing toolbox to build enterprise applications, and this is the platform where replacement applications may be built, and Microsoft are very much leaning on partners like us to bring PPM capabilities to customers using the Power Platform. So this is, if you might like, an enterprise digital toolbox. The Project Accelerator solution that I mentioned just now is built here. And you could use these tools here and build that out yourself and spend 3 or 4 years on building the sort of capabilities that I'm about to show you that we deliver out of the box with Power Framework PPM. The beauty of this digital infrastructure is that everything is, of course, deployed into your own Microsoft tenant, as Project Online is. It's obviously it's not hosted for you externally. It lives in your own Microsoft cloud that you have already secured. All your users are there. That's where people collaborate with Teams and SharePoint, and that's where these work management tools are, Planner and Project for the Web, and so on. And you really want to stay in this platform. You don't want to use third-party cloud tools for PPM, because that means taking users out of this world that they're logging into every morning that's already secured for your organization. And that really delivers the optimum collaboration, automation, integration, BI and AI capabilities, through that single platform approach. So stay in the Microsoft platform for PPM, because that's what your organization has invested in. And with that in mind, let's have a look at what we can offer as a full-scale upgrade path for Project Online, and that is Power Framework PPM. So in overview, this application delivers feature parity with Project Online, but actually it delivers a whole lot more than Project Online. And by the way, we're certainly not suggesting that organizations should be using all of the features in the tool in the same way that no one used all of the features in Project Online. I mean, that was a very feature-rich application to begin with. It is about us providing templates that are deployed for our customers, configured and set up to represent exactly what customer processes require. And so we have the intake of projects here with processing of ideas, aligning them to strategic objectives, supporting decision making around project investment, and then once projects are in delivery, supporting teams to deliver those projects, supporting resource and financial management and document management and all those other classic features of PPM tools, supported by a whole wealth of out-of-the-box reports delivered through Power BI, and of course, artificial intelligence features as well. And that's now what I'm going to show you in some detail. Now, I need to tell you, I could spend hours talking about the capabilities that are in the platform. I really am challenged to try and compress this into some representative feature demos that give you enough of an impression and an idea of what this tool is about. And as I said, I'll try and contrast this to what Project Online offers, and how we can do so much more in this modern platform, and the way that Power Framework PPM orchestrates and brings together so many of the underlying capabilities of the Microsoft platform for the purpose of PPM. Okay, so let's go and jump right in. And we are going to start by looking at the equivalent of Project Online's Project Center, views of projects. Again, and immediately you can see here there's some added capability in here that I can look at some charts, and these views here, there's some grouping going on here. So actually the way I'm currently showing this, it's representing projects, programs, and portfolios. And here is the first significant advancement in Power Framework PPM compared to Project Online. Project Online never had a built-in concept of programs and portfolios. It was all projects. A project is a project. Now, through project classifications and configuration, you could certainly bring in some program and portfolio type grouping, but there was no independent data containers for programs and portfolios. Whereas in this application, programs and portfolios are fully fleshed out entities of themselves, and that opens up whole new capabilities. For example, for financial management, we can capture budgets at portfolio level, program level, roll them down to project level. We have, let's say, risk registers at every level, project level, program level, portfolio level risk registers, and issues and so on are captured at each individual level with escalation mechanisms and so on. Of course, there's a lot of built-in reporting out of the box that works with this hierarchical structure. And why don't we have a quick look at a dashboard that is now what a senior executive might see. So in my demo database, you can see I've got 3 portfolios, very diverse portfolios with potentially very different types of projects in them that can all be configured to have different project stages and life cycles and so on. So very different processes hidden behind these portfolios, waterfall and agile and so on. That's a given. Now here I see very highly aggregated information, and I'm going to drill into, let's say, product development. Now I see a scorecard. And of course, this is the result of lots and lots of data being captured throughout the application. All data sets come with associated reporting out of the box. So again, here in aggregate, I might see, for example, that I have some extreme issues here. So let's go down a level deeper. So to look at an issues dashboard and issues listed from various projects and programs, as you can see. And I'm going to apply a filter because I'm interested in the extreme issues. And from here, I might say, you know what, I'm going to drill all the way back into that individual issue record now. So I've gone from the sort of top level aggregation all the way down to the detail record. And here is that particular issue. So you see the first data form, if you like, that is in the application, in this case, to capture an issue, completely configurable, as is the case with all data content in the application. And here I might say, you know what, who changed this record recently? And so another beautiful thing that isn't really available in this format in Project Online is the ability to look at audit history, whereby we can switch on field by field tracking of changes made to a record. So I can see that my colleague Paul recently changed the due date on this issue record. So that's a beautiful thing. If you really want to inquire of the detail of who changed what, then that data is being captured. So when we look at these views here, I just want to point out a few other things to say that the projects that you're seeing here are stored in a database called Dataverse. Dataverse is the database of the Power Platform. And it is the key to its low-code capabilities. So the application here can be changed through low-code configuration approaches, which means it's endlessly configurable and flexible, and much, much more so than Project Online. In Project Online, we struggle with the fact that there is actually no underlying database in the true sense. A lot of the custom data content would have to be configured through SharePoint. SharePoint lists, custom list configuration in SharePoint site templates. But we always struggle with the fact that there's no relational data content really, and also the navigation of that through these SharePoint sites isn't great. So here, an underlying database that opens up new worlds of flexibility and extensibility. Let me point out that, of course, we can have many environments in your Microsoft tenant, maybe for production, pre-production, test and development. And something that is not really relevant to the end user, but very important to anyone maintaining these applications, is that the platform allows for application lifecycle management. In other words, we can actually change the configuration in a development environment, then package up those changes and deploy them to pre-production and finally to production in a enterprise-controlled change management approach. That was never available in Project Online unless you deployed third-party tools that would facilitate that. Here, it is built in. The other thing, just to point out that, of course, users accessing this application are already in your Microsoft Cloud, as I've mentioned before. They access Microsoft 365 in a secure way. We simply now invite them to this application and give them a role. Role-based security, much like Project Online, but way more powerful and down to field level. We can restrict people from seeing projects or from seeing individual data content within them, or maybe it's view only and they cannot edit a field, and that's based on their role and maybe the fact that they're associated with a particular team or portfolio. Some other nice things while we're staying here, I can do search, it's built in, so if I've previously searched for the word resource, so let me do this again. And you can see here instantly, hey, where does the word resource turn up? And it turns up in 17 issues and some risks. And I have various projects with the word resource in them. And I can now click on any of these items and jump straight into those entities. That's quite nice. I can also create personal views by editing these columns, adding my own data columns into this. I can pin my favorite projects here to the sidebar and instantly go to those, and all that good stuff is completely possible. And now let me show you another huge feature here that was never available in Project Online. I can actually interact with this data set through Excel. And I can actually open up this particular view in Excel online right here. I can also open this up in Excel on the desktop, of course, and actually do mass updates on this data set using Excel. I can also copy project data, in this case, to the bottom of this and save that into the database. And here we have a perfect migration tool. So when we migrate from Project Online to this environment, we use this feature. We take data out of your legacy database into Excel, and then we bring that in through Excel integration. And then in future, and I can do the same, for many of the registers here. Here's all my risks. I can view all risks across all projects in just one view. And again, I can do a mass update on this in Excel. And don't worry, this is security control. Not anyone can come in here and do this. But a huge productivity aid for a PMO that may need to do mass updates. So let's say I enhance this and add a brand new data column, and I want to go through 2,000 risk and apply a default. It's so easy to do this using Excel interfaces. With that, let me go back and let's explore the data some more to understand some of the key concepts. I want to show you that, of course, the data set is completely configurable in terms of the sort of categorization that you apply and so on. When we drill into the project, you will see very rich information that we supply out of the box as templates, but it is configured to represent your own information needs and possibly to be a direct equivalent of the data set that you hold in Project Online. And that may include this kind of categorization that may be helpful in prioritizing projects, for example. But equally, we are going to look at projects through the lens of project lifecycle, project processes. And again, this is, of course, completely configurable. And I have some sample stages here of a project lifecycle. And again, for you that may look different. It may also be different for different types of projects. So what I want to do now is give you an idea of how projects are potentially brought into this process. And Microsoft Teams has a big role to play in the world of PPM nowadays. So everything I'm showing you can be embedded into Teams. Teams environments can be initiated automatically through Power Automate workflows and so on. But here I have a Teams channel that is deployed to publish a project request form. And so here, this is just an example of how you can set up the system to receive project ideas and requests from your user community. Don't worry about the content. This is completely arbitrary, configurable, but typically there's some categorization going on. People telling me when they need the project by, and put some narrative in here to justify their request. When they click submit, a workflow comes along, leaves an entry here in the chat to say, hey, Gero has submitted this project request. Here's a link. And that, clicking on that, now takes me into my project idea. And what we're seeing here now is a lot of information that's been mapped in from this submitted idea. So we're seeing the narrative here, we're seeing categorization and so on. You see the stages of the project lifecycle configured in my organization here at the top. And I can show you how that responds to different, what we call project track here in this implementation. So different types of projects may have different stages. My full track has a benefits realization at the end. My light track doesn't. Now, notifications, workflows around this, of course, entirely possible. So someone might be notified in the PMO to say that this new project request has been received. Only they are allowed to come in here and progress this project to the next stage, or they might say, no, I'm going to reject this project altogether, in which case it ends up on the rejected project pile, maybe because we already have a project in the pipeline that does exactly what this person is asking for. So you can see this sort of interface is a lot more intuitive and responsive than what we find in Project Online. Project Online does have the ability to define project phases and stages, but the user interface around that is rather more tedious. And here we have much greater capability of automating workflows around this and so on. And of course, the security that only certain user roles can advance this to the next stage. So let's do this. We're going to take this to the concept stage. Keep in mind, those stages are completely configurable, and these checkboxes can be configured to be relevant to you as to what needs to be in place before the project can progress to the next stage. I'm going to click refresh now to show you that suddenly data content is changed. I have more content here, tabs across the top that represent the data that my organization requires me to collect now that I'm building a business case for this project. I'm in the concept stage. And we shall explore some of this stuff. But just to point out that data content reveals itself relevant to the current stage of the project. Now, let's look at risks. That's where we're going to start. Risks in Project Online, as we said already, lives in a SharePoint list, and a SharePoint list template defines your current risk template. I'm going to pick one of these records here and drill into this. So this is my own risk template, my information template for risk. Completely configurable in terms of how we categorize a risk. We can assign people, we can put due dates against these. We can escalate to higher levels here. We've also created this rather nice little interface where we can just click into a 5x5 matrix, and that assigns likelihood and consequence. Let me explain a few generic benefits here. You can see here my risk is shows a vendor field. I can tag a supplier against this particular risk here, and that is by way of holding suppliers in a separate table. And so I can extend my application with content, and this content could well come in from an external accounting system, for example. And that now gives me the ability to look at all of the risks tagged against this vendor from all sorts of different projects. So my contractors here, my vendors are brought in through automation, through integration from other systems. And what helps me do this is built-in connectors. And this is where this platform really wins out against Project Online. There is more than 1,000 out-of-the-box connectors in the platform that helps us to connect to databases, cloud services, applications, but even Excel spreadsheets if you wanted to, and again, SharePoint lists. So that helps us connect to content that exists in your application to augment your PPM tool. In this case, vendors that are tagged against risk, but also issues, change requests, and so on. Another thing I want to point out is the inherent ability to just navigate around. So while we're here looking at some risks attached to this particular vendor, you can see here some of those risks are by way of being tagged against the project, also relating to a program. I want to click on building some facilities just to show you what a program looks like. A program, I said at the outset, is an entity of its own. It has its own life cycle. You can see here the projects within the programs, and there's a whole bunch of capabilities here that I have no time to explain, but while we're on the topic of risks, here is the risk experience in the program where we capture risks at the program level, as well as seeing those risks escalated from projects within the program. Now I'm going to take you a level up to the portfolio. So the portfolio at the top of the tree, if you like, is a collection of programs and projects. And again, I'm going to point out the risk register in the portfolio, and you've guessed it, we have 3 levels: portfolio risk, program level risk, and projects within the portfolio. So that is, of course, something that is unheard of in Project Online. Equally, while we're here, let me point out this nice visualization of this portfolio, what we call the roadmap. Make this a little bit bigger. Gives you a nice picture of this current portfolio with key milestones being delivered across projects and programs. And one thing to point out as well, we do dependency management across projects, not just within the portfolio, but even across portfolios. We have the roadmap facility even across portfolios that you can create and visualize dependencies as give-get relationships between projects. So that's something we can do. Now, let me go back though, where we started. That was a little segue into some of these capabilities in the platform. AI is a big topic in Microsoft these days, as we know. And I just want to briefly show you, we can implement Copilot in this Power App in all sorts of places. But I equally want to show you that we have built a custom AI experience that is much more integrated with the app itself. So AI content creation is available here at the click of a button. And I'm going to say here, let's create some more project risks. And what you can see here, it's pulling in lots of information that I've already defined for this project to generate a more relevant AI prompt and ask for the AI to suggest more risks. And also, this button has a pre-configured instruction to format this risk description in a particular way. So if I now click the little arrow button here, it's sending that to AI, and this is using Microsoft OpenAI infrastructure to create a bunch more risks, and I can then choose to accept them or not. I can modify these. It guesses at the appropriate risk category. And if I was to save that in, which I'm not going to do, it's going to add all of these risks into my risk register. Now, some of the other content issues, benefits are all lists of things that otherwise we might hold in registers. Benefits themselves are built in. Project Online, of course, never had a benefits register out of the box. People would maybe configure that in SharePoint. It's much easier to create dynamic forms that change based on settings of the data. So you can see my fields change on whether I have a financial or a qualitative benefit. Equally, I can measure my benefit over time. And I want to show you that my application, my reporting comes with benefit reporting out of the box. So very quickly, let's have a look at benefit reporting that we deliver with the tool, certainly as the sort of basis for configuring this for our client organizations. You can see here at the top is the investment versus cash benefit over time. I can also look at individual projects and their benefit records, and we even have a benefit status report. So once the project is all delivered, we're in benefits realization, we're going to be tracking benefits, and we can use something like a benefit status report to look at individual projects and see how they're doing on realizing their benefits. While we're here, a quick word about about assessment. That's probably worth doing. We're tracking benefits, but we also have the ability here to score our projects against strategic drivers. That may be familiar to you if you've ever used strategic drivers in Project Online. There's a similar idea here that we are scoring our projects against strategic drivers. These drivers are weighted within the portfolio to calculate an overall score for this project. And then we're translating that into an impact assessment of high, medium, low. And so there's some parameters around that, and that helps us report on projects and their prioritization and really ranking them to help senior executives make the right sort of investment decisions. I'm not going to show you the reporting for that because we are not going to have time for everything. Let me use a different project to have a quick look at documents. Maybe this one behaves in a better way. It wants me to log in again. Maybe a refresh will help me out. Documents won't play today. Never mind. All I wanted to show you here is that documents indeed are listed here, linked to a SharePoint register that's linked to this project site. And we have all of the benefits of document management associated with SharePoint connected to project portfolio management. I'm going to take you to a far more interesting topic here, and that is investment management. We are really constrained in the world of project online when it comes to maintaining project cost by having to use out-of-the-box Microsoft Project Desktop to maintain costs at task level, and everything has to be captured at task level or as line items within a project plan. That is the out-of-the-box experience if we are going to have any concept of time-phase costing, of attaching costs to individual time periods over the duration of the project. What people actually do is they use spreadsheets. And here I want to point out to you that we have this spreadsheet experience built into a far more connected concept, whereby what we're seeing here behaves like a spreadsheet, and I can type in amounts into each individual cell that represents a particular cost category at a particular period of the project. And you can see here I can do this at annual level, quarterly or monthly level. And we do have the concept of financial year here as well. So what I see here as a project manager is a pre-configured set of categorizations that are the standard for the enterprise, and that ensures that all projects do this in a way that makes all projects cost reportable. We can of course aggregate this up to program and portfolio level. Here I'm just exposing forecasts currently, and I could just simply say, I'm expecting a hardware purchase in the second month of this project. However, rather than just typing these amounts in, they can also be pushed into this calculation from other sources. So here we're seeing personnel expenses, and clicking on any of these amounts shows me that this is actually a cost for a resource that wasn't maintained in this investment grid itself. It came in from resource demand, which I haven't shown you yet, for 20 days at a day rate of $350 for a business analyst called Mayfield, who's assigned to this project. Here we are compensating for the fact that Project for the Web, Microsoft's replacement scheduling tool, doesn't do task level costing. And we bring in a very pragmatic approach to project costing that should be very easy to adopt for a lot of organizations that use these kind of spreadsheets, and benefiting again from the fact that everything hangs together. And that also means that we could hook this into a financial system and bring in these transactions for certain cells from an external system, so that suddenly actuals would appear, maybe to represent vendor invoices received for this project in your financial accounting system. So this whole thing is a connected experience. It can pull data in from other sources, as well as, of course, receiving my data input here. I can show you as well that, of course, we have the ability to put budgets in here. My project has no budget whatsoever at this point. Budget is actually allocated to this project from the program, and then I can monitor variances and so on. So the program sees the forecast that I'm pulling together here for my project, and will then allocate budget when the time is right. With that, as you would imagine, there is a ton of reporting that's going to come out of that. So I'm just going to briefly show you equivalent reporting. Now, all of these out-of-the-box reports are, of course, entirely configurable and to be enhanced for individual customer requirements. But equally, we offer the data model in Power BI that enables you to create your own reports or extract data into Excel. It's a true mythical single source of truth provided by this application, but a much richer set of reports out of the box. So here you can see portfolio versus program funding. I'm going to just click into project cost analysis that uses all these standardized cost categories to analyze costs. And you can see here personnel expenses is the biggest cost across all of my projects. And I can now, of course, easily apply different filters here. OPEX and CAPEX expenditure is being appropriately accounted for, and so on. The next big innovation that we have that is very different to what you find in Project Online is in the area of resource management. So Project Online with Microsoft Project was all about bottom-up resource management, where resources had to be captured at individual task level effort, resources assigned, and then everything aggregates up to give me this sort of idea of demand across roles or individuals. A lot of organizations cannot sustain that. It's way too much detail. And actually, here's a project idea that I'm just building. I don't even have a project plan yet. And a lot of people do what you can see here. They build spreadsheet solutions to create an idea of resource demand for a project. And what we're doing here is a similar experience, really easy to use, but it is all connected. We have a organizational setup of roles with individual resources behind them, and they all have capacity defined, but I can now simply say, you know what, I'm going to need a product engineer at some point in the project, and I'm just going to say it's days per month here, and it's pretty rough and ready, but I'm representing a demand for a certain type of resource, which will translate, of course, into a cost. And we talked about the personnel costs flowing into our investment. That's of course based on the number of days that I put into my project as demand, and that's being converted into cost, and that will feature in the investment tab, flow into the right sort of line item there. By fleshing this out, I am supplying demand information to a really cool what if modeling tool, and Project Online has nothing like this. And very briefly, this is a sandbox that I've created previously. Lots of projects are currently mostly in the concept phase that I'm playing with. I want to do what if analysis against these projects, and I'll have an analysis here of my resources and their remaining capacity. And you can see here, my AI specialists are in trouble. Hovering over this gives me an idea of what projects are contributing to the over allocation of this resource. And I can now play with those projects. So Cactus traffic sensor, what would happen if that project wasn't selected? Let's take it out. And instantly, my situation is looking a little better with my AI specialist. But equally, a project maybe needs to be moved, or a project is maybe here's a project that's already in the works. I am going to split this project, and I'm going to delay the remainder. Or another project may start later, but still end against the original finish date. So we're compressing the resource demand. So this is what I can do here. I can then also look at the impact of my simulations here. Equally for investment, by the way. So my investment is modified as well over time when I move things along. And so I can now create different scenarios. And by the way, Project Online had something similar, but never had this sort of interactive manipulation facility. I can create multiple sandboxes, compare them. There's lots of reporting here to help me analyze different scenarios to come up with something that then helps decision making in terms of how my portfolio should actually be structured. And with that, there's lots of other resource management capabilities here. I can then ask for an individual resource to be assigned. So there's a resource approval processes, and all that is equally possible. With that, let's quickly talk about projects in delivery. Once they're in delivery, I want to show you that projects can connect to different project tools. And again, major advancement against Project Online. So you can see here, different teams using different scheduling tools. Not everyone wants to use Microsoft Project. So I have here some projects using Jira. Let's pick one of these guys up. And here you see a project in its full glory. Lots and lots of information now that the project is in delivery. Project managers will submit regular status reports. We have change requests and lessons learned and so on. But if I click on this button here, this opens up now actually Jira as the tool that's connected to this project. And Jira has different user stories or epics that are connected to a milestone plan back in my project. So these milestones are driven by what people are doing in Jira. If I show you a different project, let's have a look at maybe this one, which is actually connected to Project Online, because Project Online continues to play a role as a mere storage area for Microsoft project schedules. So, there's actually a story here about hybrid implementations where Project Online stays in place, but merely as a container for your project schedules, as a cloud database for project schedules, and everything else that you have in terms of data against your projects, the risks, the issues, any other data, project data is migrated to Power Framework PPM. Merely the schedule stays here, so you can continue to use Microsoft Project. That is possible, but then equally, other people might use Project for the web, and so here's a project using that, and all these different tools are feeding milestones back into my Power Framework PPM application, so that here that will feed into a consistent project highlight report experience. So milestones are shown here with their dates and progress from the various connected tools, as are issues, risk, and so on. Now, there is so much more I can show you, but I need to be looking at the time, and we are running out. There is a great timesheet experience in the system, lots of reporting that I have no time to show you. But what I wanted to do really is to give you a good impression of what is possible in this platform. And here are my 8 reasons why you should be making the move. So you should de-risk yourself by taking stuff out of Project Online and modernizing and migrating away from it. It's, I think, absolutely acceptable to leave the Microsoft project schedules in there, because it's, you've got nowhere else to go if you want to store Microsoft project schedules in the cloud, but take all the other data out and store it in Power Framework PPM and link back to your existing Project Online implementation just for the schedules. It is often the case that Project Online implementations have fallen out of grace. They are no longer up to date with the real processes of the PMO. And implementing and modernizing Power Framework PPM gives a real opportunity to realign what happens in these applications with your actual business needs. Along that, you have the opportunity to introduce actual portfolio and program management through the capabilities that our solution brings out of the box, and tackle resource and investment management in a whole new way, if that's been a struggle in Project Online, as it is for so many organizations. Because we can connect different teams using their own scheduling tool like Jira or Planner or Azure DevOps or even Smartsheets, you can actually increase the reach of your PPM tool. You can get everyone feeding into this. Everyone has a consistent risk log and consistent project stages, but their day-to-day work management happens with the tool that they're comfortable with. So maybe they'll play ball. Collaboration, integration, automation capabilities in this modern platform that are simply unobtainable in Project Online. And with that, new opportunities to drive adoption, the far more efficient user experiences, less clicks. You have a much greater hope of people using this in a consistent fashion. And then the final reason really is artificial intelligence. I've had very little time to show you those AI capabilities. I've given you a bit of a taster, but Project Online cannot really be AI enabled, where as the Power Platform technologies that everything else sits on is very much the home for Microsoft AI experiences. And with that, my hour is more than up. Thank you so much for your attention. I would invite you to request a personal demo so that we can go into far more detail in terms of what these applications can offer you. But I hope this has been useful. Thank you for your attention, and speak soon.